Cheerio. So this whole Adelson thing is just obsessed. I'm obsessed. I'm watching Donna be condemned, have her verdict read to her. And she says, no, oh my gee. And you realize almost this entire family, well, shoot, I mean, 2 of the 5 are in prison for life. I'm sure Rob wants to change his name. However, his reputation has, I'm sure it was fine, if not great, before, but it's even better now. I can't even imagine having to testify against my mother and knowing you're probably going to have to testify against your sister. Do you notice that they brought things up in this trial that were not brought up in Charlie's trial? In Charlie's trial, they brought up things that were not brought up in Katie's trial, and so on and so on. Luis did not have a trial because he took the deal. If you didn't watch my last one, Luis will be released in 2028. I believe around September 2028. So he has 2 years left. Originally, I believed this was all in Donna's head. I do not believe that any longer. I was listening to the deposition of the joint friend, Tamara. She was friends with Dan and Wendy. And she was friends with Wendy first. So, but the things that, she was in the Adelson home in Miami 1 week post-murder. And she heard Donna, I don't remember if Donna was laughing about it but it was crystal clear that Donna could care less that her former son-in-law was dead. But I now believe Wendy manipulated her mother. Her mother was obviously the matriarch. But, oh, poor little me. I need help. I can't do anything myself. And Wendy, well, we know she's a tramp. She gets around, put it that way. She was sleeping with Jeff. Do you know that she wanted the boys to call Jeff Dad? And I don't know that Jeff allowed that or Jeff said, no, that's creepy. Jeff is dating a woman who's having nervous breakdowns all over the house, and he stays with her. They're at a yoga together, and everything's fine. Excuse me. And as they're leaving, she said, I need 7 days away from you. What? We were just at yoga together, and we had a coffee this afternoon, you psychopath. I think that the 7 days were because Donna was coming up to pack up Wendy's house. In November, Donna will be in jail. Well, actually, in November, she'll be in prison because I believe her sentencing is October something. I'm thinking it's the 21st, but I have no idea. By that time, she'll be in prison. And did you see the movie Shawshank Redemption when the innocent guy is walking in and all the guys in prison are at the gate and saying, oh, look, this is our next dish we're going to have? I believe it's probably still a little bit similar. I've heard women's prisons are completely different than men's prisons. Women are catty, just like we are out in the world. Donna's attorneys, I saw an attorney say they believe that Donna has easy grounds for appeal simply on the fact of ineffective counsel. Now, lots and lots of people use that as their grounds for appeal. And I don't have any idea how often it's denied. But that's a common one. But a real live attorney said she really may get it on this. You think about almost every time they said, okay, defense, cross-examination, give us a moment, please. Your defense, your turn. We need a moment, please. It was just all the time. I didn't realize this until I re-watched the Donna, are you going to testify part. The one day the judge let the court out at about 3:20. He did that so that Donna could have more time with her attorneys. I assumed if you're in jail and no matter what time of day, if your attorney shows up, they bring you to the room and the two of you get to speak. There's no cameras, no recording. Honestly, I just assumed it was any time of day, but it is not. I'm going to guess that they have until 5 o'clock. The judge gave them extra time at lunch the day prior to the conviction so that they could have time with Donna. The judge was very courteous to Donna. You think about this. This is his, I think, fourth trial. The original judge was Hangman Hankerson, but he was very, very patient with Donna. The paralegal that was on her team was only there for Donna. She had her hand on Donna's back almost constantly. Oh, the paralegal had a nose ring. That nose ring is sexy, said no man ever. The nose ring is absolutely disgusting. I don't think Charlie gave one poop about Wendy's divorce, but he was a little mama's boy. And his mom, I don't remember what Pat Sanford, that good-looking FBI agent, what he said. I'm trying to think, did he say there were 44,000 calls or texts between Donna and Charlie? But they definitely had a mommy-son, horrendous relationship. June Achenda, the dumb woman Charlie's ex-girlfriend, who got lost at 2 different trials in the same courthouse. Duh. Very, very pretty girl. Great hair. I don't know how she was willing to tolerate that. My last husband was sort of a mama's boy, but it was nothing like this dynamic. But Charlie set this up to get his mother off his back. I was watching during Charlie's sentencing, and they're doing the victim impact statements, and he is sitting there, and the look on his face said to me, I cannot believe I freaking did this. I had the life of Riley. I had a beautiful, wonderful life. I had a boat and jet skis and a pool in my backyard and everything. And my mother wouldn't shut up. So I bought this girl boobs, and now she's in prison. I'm never going to get to see my Roman again. Someone did a walkthrough of Charlie's house once it was put on the market. Oh my goodness. It was 4.5 minutes in, and the girl still had not shown us one piece of the house. Painful, painful. But Charlie's house was weird. One level, it was odd. All wood, beautiful. I think the kitchen, you had to go downstairs for the kitchen. Terrible, terrible. But I fully believe now that Wendy set this up. 100% her. She didn't go to the funeral, didn't take the boys to the funeral. And in the Jewish world, you're buried within 24 hours, I believe. You hold Shiva, you put black cloths all over the mirrors. Danny was buried on Monday. He was shot on Friday, died on Saturday. But remember, they have to transport him up to Canada, which I'm sure is not inexpensive. She didn't even get on an airplane and take Danny's children to the funeral. Obviously, her parents didn't go to the funeral. At Sigfredo's trial, she testified that she packed a weekend bag and went to Miami, having no idea she would be there that long. And maybe it was Charlie's trial. And Georgia said to her, well, it's been 5 years, hasn't it? And Wendy, for the most part, doesn't really even have a response. You remember that when Donna's telling Wendy how great her life is going to be in Miami, one of the things she said is, I've already pre-screened men for you on the dating website. What? I wouldn't want my mother pre-screening men for me. But I have learned that when Donna chose Dan, I'm sure Dan was part of the initial pre-screening, and then Wendy had the ultimate choice. Dan was a good-looking guy. I didn't necessarily care for his tiny little glasses. But, Wendy made comments that she was walking down the aisle knowing she was marrying a man that she had no love for whatsoever. What? And you know that was a very, very nice wedding. Now, it wasn't $30 million and held in St. James Palace, But what? I couldn't marry someone like that. And they were married quite a few years before they had the first child. And then they had the second child almost immediately. And, Donna was there constantly so that Wendy wouldn't have to get up in the middle of the night and take care of her children. Wendy said, well, I was breastfeeding. Well, Wendy, if you didn't get up in the middle of the night and take care of your children, that meant you woke up in the morning and your boobs were rock hard, they hurt, and you either had to pump or then take care of your children. So if you did that, good, that hurt. Come on, man. Come on. I did work for a little bit after my child, and I would pump on the way to work. I had made a t-shirt thing that covered me, but I would drive to work pumping. When I got to work, I pumped once or twice during the day, but there was a sign on my office, and I think it just said pumping or boobs in action. There were 75 of us, and it was a small company. Everyone, for the most part, got along. We did have one man that stunk, and we would joke and squeeze lemons on him. I worked in a restaurant that the guy stunk, and they squeezed lemons on him. How odd is that? I'd never, ever seen that. Yes, I saw it twice in my life. But they didn't even go to the stinking funeral. My goodness. But Donna was there taking care of Wendy so she could wake up with rock hard boobs in the morning. I think about Robert testifying against his mother. That had to be horrible. He flew to Tallahassee the night before. I'm sure he had an afternoon or evening flight out. They had him testify first thing in the morning. When he said, they asked the question about when he spoke to his mother. Sigfredo was arrested, and his wedding anniversary was 1 or 2 days later. So he didn't know if he should call to, show glory, I'm so happy someone's been arrested, or just wait until his anniversary. So 2 days later on his anniversary, Donna calls, hey, honey, happy anniversary. And, okay, thank you, normalities. And then he said, I noticed someone was arrested for Danny's murder. Isn't that awesome? And what did his mother say? Something, I don't know and I don't care. And then Georgia asked Robert, and how often have you, when was the last time you've spoken to her since then? And he said, that was the last time I spoke to her. I mean, my stomach dropped down into into my nether regions. When I think the only reason, so on the last day before closing arguments, the defense attorney, I do not remember who they had on the stand, but he's doing everything he can to keep this person on the stand so that they can end court for the day. Because remember, Donna has not decided if she's going to testify or not. And he's asked the person, well, is it true you were wearing red socks the day that you were looking at the files I gave you, that I'm paying you a lot of money to get up on the stand and make my evil client look good? The person's like, no, actually I was wearing blue socks that day. It was pathetic. Well, I didn't figure it out at first. I'm wondering, I'm like, dude, why are you asking these stupid questions? And then it all happens. Okay, Donna, are you going to testify? And we go through all that drama. And then her statement, I do not believe I'm going to testify or speak at this time. When are you going to speak, bitch? You going to speak at your appeal trial? I still can't believe Katherine McBanawa. You can go home tomorrow. Once you do your proffer, we'll be in this jail doing your proffer tomorrow. We'll bring you the damn Diet Coke that you want so badly. You'll be home having dinner with your children tomorrow evening. All we want is the story. No, thank you. I'm happy being in jail for the rest of my entire stupid life. Ugh. Horrendous. Katherine, you are a dumb, dumb, dumb woman. I realize you're going to have great boobs for the rest of your life. If Dawn of the Dead happens and everyone's walking around, you're going to have silicone attached, I assume, to the front of your skeleton. Think about all the women who are going to have silicone lips. Don't people put silicone on their butts and their men? Jeff Bezos had it put on his arms. That may be fat. I'm not sure. But, he had plastic surgery. he wasn't originally a very good-looking man. I still don't find him necessarily attractive, but I assume Miss Plastic, the OG of plastic, Lauren Sanchez, finds him quite attractive. That bank account, see, that doesn't do it for me. I can't marry a rich jerk, or a rich, even rich, unattractive jerk. At one point, Wendy claims, "Oh, Wendy, you changed the name to Adelson? You know, on Charlie's birthday party invite, which was his birthday was July 5th, I believe. Dan's murdered July 18th. Yeah, so Harvey's birthday party is 2 weeks before the murder, and they have those boys listed as Adelson." And Wendy, well, I was terrified someone was going to come after us, so I used my own name. What? Markel was in the news just as much as Adelson, and Adelson may have even been in the news more. You know why? Because there is one Markel, but there is Donna Adelson, Charlie Adelson, Donnie, Wendi Adelson, Harvey Adelson. That's 4 times. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your family's going to be mentioned. 1 time for Danny Adelson. So that's nonsense. Then why didn't you name change your name to Weinstein or Smith or Hess? You know, if you want to keep your heritage in that. I thought it was great when Dan's father said, "We have a saying in the Jewish faith that you live to be 120 years. I knew exactly where he was going with that. Donna, I hope you live to be 120 years. And I, 100%. But another thing that made me change my opinion about Donna was the original, or Wendy, I'm sorry, was the original mastermind. In that interrogation, who does she bring up? My brother? My family? My parents? What? If your parents or your brother did it and you know they did it, you're not going to act like that. You're not going to tell your mother that Dan has been shot. Okay, I did this for the phone instead of doing this. But you're not going to tell your mother that Dan has been shot, hang up the phone, and look at the police officer and say, "Well, I'm really grateful she sounded surprised." That's not what you do. That's what you do if you want the police to start looking at your parents and your brother. And my last thing I want to talk about before I shut this baby down. She drove to the crime scene. I've heard multiple different stories about her drive to the crime scene. She told Officer Eisen one story. One of her friends came to the interrogation room that day and the police left, and she's sitting there talking to her friend. She tells that friend a different story about going to the crime scene. And then as she's testifying, her third story now, she refers to it as a shortcut. It's not a shortcut. Apparently there are speed bumps every quarter mile, that entire route. I have one lousy speed bump across the street. There's nothing I can do about it. And it's even a speed hump. You know, it's lower and, more wide. So you just have to slow down a little bit. And I get anxious pulling up to it. She's not going down a road that has all those speed humps. Goodness gracious. There's a liquor store directly next to her house. She said, "Well, I have a poor sense of direction." So I just went to the liquor store that I was used to. Well, in another trial, she makes the statement that she doesn't go to liquor stores very often, so she really didn't even know where one was. And then she has even a third story. Why would she buy Bullet bourbon? Isn't that just the weirdest coincidence? That 2 hours prior to your purchase of your Bullet bourbon, your ex-husband, who you despise, gets shot with a bullet? Hello, coincidence 101. I want to see Wendy arrested so badly. I believe Charlie was convicted November 6th, first week in November, And so Donna was free for 2 weeks before she was arrested, November 20, I believe. If I'm wrong, you can let me know. It's not that big of a deal. Donna's in prison for the rest of her life now. Earlier, Donna complained that women had tried to touch her inappropriately. Well, Donna, you may go gay for the stay, and the stay is forever. You're leaving in a little box. Oh, my goodness. I'm surprised her hair hadn't grown a little longer in 2 years. Are you allowed to get haircuts in jail? If you've been in jail and you've gotten a haircut, please let me know. Okay. If you're still watching right now, I am shocked. I'm humbled. Hook me up. Hit that little thumbs up so my video will go around to more people. Subscribe if you ain't subscribed. God bless America. God bless this America. Please. Toodaloo. Bye-bye.